Hi everyone and welcome to this video. My name is Dan and I am a mature student with the Open University. Those who have followed my journey so far will know that I started a science degree back in October last year and I just couldn't get along with it. So I, what they call deferred, and then quit basically and started a new module. So I've decided to study, at the moment, a broad-based arts and humanities degree with the Open University. And that gives me the flexibility to be able to then specialise later on. So I don't have to pick a speciality now. So I don't have to pick history, classical studies, English literature right now. I can do the first module and even the second module at level 1. And then when I get to level 2, then if I want to specialise in one or two of the subjects, I can. I am leaning towards history more. When I first signed up, I was kind of going to do a dual specialism in history and English lit. Then I was thinking classical studies and history. And then I was like, maybe the whole thing classical studies. And now I'm kind of thinking, well, actually, maybe just do the whole history degree. But I'm still just signed up for the broad-based arts and humanities at the moment because my mind keeps changing. However, this video is about A111, Discovering the Arts and Humanities, and that is the first level 1 module for a number of different pathways. It consists of 8 different subjects. It's an interdisciplinary, broad-based module. It includes stuff like English literature, classical studies, history, art history, music, philosophy, religious studies, and creative writing. So the chances are, if you want to study one of those subjects at the Open University, A111 will be your first module. So I'm going to get into a brief introduction to the module. I've only just started it myself, so this is just going through what I've been through quickly. What I'm going to aim to do is do a video sort of every 3 to 4 weeks after I've completed maybe 3 or 4 units and give a more in-depth discussion about what I've learned, what I thought of the unit materials and the books as well. But I'll be doing that, as I say, every 3 or 4 weeks. But this is just an overview of the module from my understanding so far. So, A111 is a 60 credit module. It's the first module at level 1. And the Open University suggests you spend about 16 hours a week studying. So far, I would say I haven't needed 16 hours. And it was the same when I did law at level 1. I probably needed anywhere between 8 and 12 hours. If there was a TMA due, which is the assignments, maybe I'd go up to the 16 hours if I really wanted to put a bit of more effort into it. However, in comparison to the science modules that I just did and the maths module, I would say I was easily doing well over the suggested time. So they were 30 credit modules and it was suggested spending 8 to 9 hours each module. And for the maths, I was easily spending 16 hours, if not more, and I was still falling behind, hence why I quit. So I'm enjoying this module a lot more. It's definitely where I'm more comfortable. I'm sad that I didn't get on because I really love astronomy. It's one of my passions, but there is definitely a difference between studying something and having an interest in it. Whereas I've always had an interest in history as well. Before I even started my law degree, I was looking at doing classical studies or history. So I'm kind of glad that I've gone back to this because it is something I'm really interested in. I love watching stuff on YouTube, all the history documentaries on iPlayer as well, and quite a broad-based interest. So anything from the Roman Empire to the medieval age to even the Tudors and even Victorian sort of era. Having a broad-based interest in all of it. So I'm hoping the degree I might find a certain area where I'm quite passionate about. But anyway, I'm just excited to get started. So without further ado, so for A111 you get sent out 3 textbooks. These will normally arrive usually a month before you start. So with the mailing, what I've noticed when I did my law, I'm not sure if it's the same for all modules, but I think it is. There's a set date they send out all the books, and that's for anyone who's registered kind of really early, and that's usually a month before the start of the course. Then anyone who, like me, starts later than that date, they just then send out as and when you register. So I registered literally a week before registration closed for this module, but my books were with me probably 5 days after. I literally changed it all up, so it was pretty quick. But normally if you register early, you'll get them about a month early. You'll also have access to the module website about a month before. So I was unlucky, so I didn't get that because I registered quite late, and I only gained access maybe about 2 weeks before the start date. But that's still enough time for me to get onto the website and get an early start. If you've never studied with the Open University before, that month is really handy to get familiarised with the website, student home, see what's on there, and also the module website itself to see where everything is, where the tutorials are, where the forums are, where the resources are. For A111, for example, the resources, you can download the audio file. So there's a lot of discussions which have been recorded, which you listen to audio. If you're studying on the computer and you've got Wi-Fi access, you can just listen as you go along. However, if you're like me and you like to study on the go, you can download those audio files in anticipation for studying. So I look ahead at the unit in the resources tab and it will say Unit 5 has 3 audios. Download them all, get them on my phone. So when I'm studying the unit offline, I can then just go into my phone, listen to the audio. So the resources tab is really great for that. Also, what I like to do is download the module materials on the website as well. So where you study on the module website, and down at the bottom of the page, there's a bit where it says download, and you can download as a PDF or any other form to save on your computer. So if you're going to study where you don't have internet access, I find that really helpful as well. Anyway, the books you get. So there's 3 books. The first one is called Reputations, and this is the book. This has 7 chapters. I will be going more into detail in this book because I've actually done a few chapters already and looked ahead at the others, whereas the other 2 books I haven't. I've just had a brief look, so they'll be quite brief, but this one will be a bit more in depth. So this one, Reputations, covers 7 chapters and 7 historical figures, and you guessed it, they're reputations. So Module 1, Unit 1, should I say, is about Cleopatra. So that is a classical studies module, unit, module, I keep saying module. Classical studies unit, and yeah, I won't go into too much detail because I'll leave that for the next video, but I found it really interesting, really fascinating. So the second chapter is on religious studies, and that is about the Virgin Mary, Mother of Jesus. I will say I was apprehensive about studying that because I'm not really interested in religious studies, but I actually found it quite interesting, to be honest. And I have seen a lot of people on the OU Facebook group. If you're a part of that, it's a massive group. It's not affiliated with the OU, just to say that, but it is quite useful. And there's a lot of, not just students, but some tutors on there as well. So it can be really good. But you do get some moaners on there, odds, like anywhere in life. I have seen some people say they don't like the fact that A111 or both level 1 modules are interdisciplinary and you study subjects that you don't actually want to go on and study at a later level. However, I have found so far that the subjects do kind of intertwine with each other. So history and art history go quite closely together, and even English lit and history, you know, you can be looking at historical literature. So I do find it quite fascinating how they do interlink with each other and gaining useful skills from one subject to use in another. So I like the fact it's interdisciplinary. Some people don't. But when you go into the second level 1 module, they split it down even further. So instead of 8 subjects, you do 4. So if you want to do history, for example, you'll do A113 Revolutions, which covers history, music, philosophy, religious studies. And if you wanted to do classical studies or English lit, you'll do A112, which is cultures, and that is English lit, classical studies, creative writing, art history. I can't remember. Something like that. Anyway, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so chapter 3 in the book is a history unit, and that is about Elizabeth I. Once again, found that really interesting. It's fascinating to see how, obviously the book is Reputations, and how you have a sort of predetermined idea or concept of what these people are. So like, for example, Elizabeth I, all I really knew is she reigned for a long time, she didn't marry, have kids, had a pale face and red hair. But it's been really fascinating to actually delve deep into not just what people at her time thought of her, but what historians through the ages have thought of her as well, and how her reputation has changed depending on who you speak to. Unit 4 in the Reputations book is Mozart. That is a music module. It's kind of like / history music. It is predominantly a music module, don't get me wrong, but the chapter takes you through, you know, his life, how he gained his reputation. But along the way, you're listening to a number of his compositions. I think there's about 28 in total, which once again, really good. You can download from the resources tab. And even better, you can download it as a whole zip file, so you don't have to download every individual file. You can just download the zip file, and then all the tracks are in there. And as you're listening along to that, I have noticed that it's teaching you how to recognize different music and how the composition is in certain like free movements, I think they're called. Anyway, I'll leave that for now. It's not one of my hot topics. I quite enjoyed it, but you know, Unit 5 is on someone called Mary Wollstonecraft. I've never heard of her before. It's probably in this book the only person I haven't heard of, but she is a philosopher, so this is a philosophy unit. And actually, having a quick look, looks quite interesting. And I didn't realise she's also the mother of Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein. And there is a connection between Frankenstein and the work of Mary Wollstonecraft. But more in that video. Unit 6 is on Charles Dickens, but also more primarily on A Christmas Carol. So you've got two reputations there to look at. It's not just Charles Dickens, you're also looking at the reputation of A Christmas Carol, which is probably, you ask most people, one of the most famous works of his. It's one that is, you know, transcended through the ages. If you're like me, you've probably watched The Muppets Christmas Carol about 20 million times. So, and actually reading the book, which you have to do for the unit, you see actually how fairly true to the original novel, The Muppets Christmas Carol, was. Such as, like, I just thought, you know, a lot of it was made up for the Muppets, you know, for their conversation and whatever in the film. But the whole, like, the big giant who's the ghost of Christmas Present, who's like, come in and know me better, man, is actually in the book. Well, that's quite interesting, but, you know, that's just me. I'm a bit sad like that. Anyway, and then the last chapter in the book is a book on Van Gogh, which is primarily an art history module unit. And yeah, I haven't really looked too much at that. That's, you know, week 7. I'm definitely not there yet. The unit or the module has just started. So the second book is... So the second book is called Traditions, and it is looking at how traditions from the past influence or can influence people today in various areas and the subjects that you're studying. So the chapters in that book, and this is going to just be a very brief description because, yeah, that is way in my future yet, but I have tried to write a few details down on each bit. So the first unit of Traditions looks at sculptures from the ancient world, so ancient Greece, ancient Rome, and also then looks at how today's artists are influenced, if at all, by these sculptures from these ancient artists. And the second unit is a music unit, and it looks at the blues. So how the blues transcends into today's culture, but also how the blues was created itself from previous influences. I believe that's the gist that I've got from it anyway. I shall tell you more about that in the future when I do that video. And then the next unit is a creative writing unit. I really don't have much to say on that because you're not learning about something, you're learning about creative writing, but obviously that is, I feel, a very subjective topic. So I'd be interesting to get to that point. I can't say it's something I'm interested in because I'm not necessarily creative in that way, but if for those who are, and those who are studying creative writing, that's for you. So the next unit is a philosophy unit, and we are looking at Plato. And that is more concerned with morality. So the first philosophy unit where we did, or you do Mary Wollstonecraft, that is kind of more the sex debate. So the gender issues between men and women, especially from her time, she was 18th century. So how women are treated differently to men, whereas Plato is more about morality in general. The next unit is a religious studies unit, and that looks at certain places in the UK, such as Canterbury Cathedral, and what traditions we associate with a place like that, and what traditions have transcended from when they started, back when the cathedral was made, to even modern day, you know, what traditions still take place in the cathedral. Is the gist I've got from it. Don't take this as gospel. There will be further videos further down the line. And then the block finishes, in the Traditions book finishes with a bit on art history, and once again still related to buildings, but you're looking at sort of the architecture, sort of like modern and Gothic architecture of buildings. So yeah, sounds interesting. So the third book is called Crossing Boundaries. And it's about crossing boundaries, funnily enough. So it's basically looking at certain things in the past and how they've transcended once again into modern society. First unit is a classical studies unit, and it is on an ancient Greek play by Sophocles called Antigone, or if you want to be a bit more sort of continental, Antigone, I believe. But Antigone is kind of what most Westerners will call it. Looks quite interesting. You have to buy the book for the module as well. It is on iPlayer. So just like Unit 3, we were talking about that a while ago, Cleopatra, was on iPlayer, and it's a 4-hour film, but really interesting. I believe Antigone is on YouTube, not iPlayer. And it's in different parts, but you can watch it, and it's kind of word for word how the play is written, which is quite interesting. So next you will go and look at how Antigone, or the themes in Antigone, are transcended into a play called The Island, which is based in South Africa. And once again, that's how the crossing boundaries comes into it, I believe. It's described as an English literature unit, but you know, once again, this is how the disciplines kind of intertwine with each other, because Antigone could be a literature as well, because you're reading sort of like the physical book of the play, but it's kind of a classical studies unit at the same time. So The Island is an English lit unit, but you know, it's crossing with history as well. So after the Island unit, you then stay in South Africa, but it's a music unit, and you're looking at how music has sort of crossed boundaries in apartheid South Africa to kind of fight against oppression. Here's the gist of what I've got from it. So I know it doesn't sound very sort of professional there, but that's kind of the breakdown of what the unit is. And then the next unit is the Art of Benin, or Benin, which is kind of in, I believe, in Nigeria now. But you're looking at historical art from the place, also a bit more modern art from Benin as well, and then how Western cultures in today's society have not appreciated as such, but have reacted to the art from Benin. That's what the module says anyway. Yeah, it'd be interesting to get there to see what it actually means. So then we look at philosophy and also religion in terms of Buddhism. So obviously you've got Buddhism as a religion, and then obviously there's philosophers that come from Buddhism. That's just my basic understanding of it. Obviously there'll be more information as I go along. These are just kind of bullet points I wanted to get to you. I don't want to make the video too long. Quick note on TMAs, there is 5 TMAs, 1 EM TMA and an ITMA. They look pretty good to what I've done before. So there's options with these TMAs. When I did law, you didn't get an option, you got your question, that was it. Here, obviously, because it's interdisciplinary, they give you options. So, for example, TMA 1, you can choose between Cleopatra, Elizabeth I and the Virgin Mary. You have to pick 2 of them, but you can choose whatever takes your fancy. Also, as I mentioned a little bit earlier with the books, so you get given the free books, but there's also 3 texts that they ask you to buy. So the first one for week 6 is A Christmas Carol and Other Christmas Stories by Charles Dickens. It's got the Christmas Carol in there, but also other works that he did. So basically, A Christmas Carol was like a novella that he published one Christmas time in some publication, and then subsequent years he would do other Christmas stories. There was a couple of breaks in between, but yeah, and this is a combination of all the Christmas stories that he wrote. So I'm looking forward to actually reading the rest. You don't have to read the rest for the unit, but I'm actually quite interested in reading the rest. I got that from Amazon at £7.35. I will say you will need the books. So I wasn't sure at first if it was going to be a case of they tell you to read it, and then when they're discussing certain bits, they give you the text that they're discussing in the module material, but that's not the case. So I've kind of had a quick look forward at Charles Dickens, and basically it says, go to this paragraph on this page, and you have to read it from the book because they don't give you the text, so you will need it. The next one is The Favourite Book of Beasts. I forgot to mention that in the recap, didn't I? Where did that go? So that comes in the second book, which is Traditions, and that's just before the creative writing module, I believe. And you're looking at poetry on animals. There we go. Sorry, I forgot. I should have mentioned that earlier. I don't know why I didn't mention that earlier. I've got my list here, but. And then the third book you'll need, as we were just talking about, Antigone and Begogne. This is the version they want you to get. Oh, Favourite Book of Beasts I got for £9.19 off Amazon. This one I got for £10.29 off Amazon. This version also has quite a bit of information at the beginning about how Greek plays were set out and stuff like that. Really interesting. So that is A111 in a nutshell, Discovering the Arts and Humanities. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry I've rambled. I like to ramble. I try not to script these things. I've had comments in the past about, oh, the video was rubbish because it wasn't scripted. I don't like scripted stuff. I just put some bullet points and talk. I hope you've enjoyed. Once again, I'll be doing a video in about 3 or 4 weeks. I will try this time because I am enjoying this topic, and I'll probably cover units 1 to 3, which is oh my god, units 1 to 3, Cleopatra, Elizabeth I and the Virgin Mary, and then I'll do another video a few weeks after that doing the last few bits in the Reputations book. But that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed. Any questions, put them in the comments. I'll try and reply when I can. Until then, thanks for watching.